Hi there, in this video I want to go further and discuss what's happening with the merger of Hermes and Pan and how I believe Loki fits in. And all one has to look at is J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter. It works for many other films, but Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, and even Percy Sledge and the Lightning Bolt and then the other films. And starting straight away with Harry Potter. Harry Potter has a lightning bolt on his forehead, which is symbolic of Zeus, who was a storm god who had a lightning bolt as a weapon because he was a storm god. So there's that. There's the fact that his friend is called Hermione, which is the female equivalent of Hermes. And then going deeper into apocalypses and the apocalypse of Zerubbabel. If you're familiar with the Bible, you'll be aware that Zerubbabel was an ancestor of King David, and Messiah ben David will be a type of David, a second coming of David as well. So what you'll find is that in Zechariah it mentions that there will be this king, and this king will be part of a rebuilding of the third temple, and it's about placing this crown upon his head. But it wasn't placed upon Zerubbabel's head. It's for a future time, because it's a prophetic book, so it's for the future. It had a literal meaning and it had a metaphorical prophetic meaning, and that's throughout the entire Bible. You'll have a literal meaning, like in the prodigal son with Loki, and then you'll have metaphorical. So in the prodigal son it'll be Loki, Hermes, Pan, the prodigal son, the younger son, and then the younger son represents all of mankind, which is why we are all brought to this level. And then the older, I believe, is Apollo, who is his half brother in the Roman pantheon, and that makes sense, although I don't know how he kept all his commandments, but it would make sense that Apollo would be jealous, and it mentions cattle because Hermes stole cattle from Apollo. And there's lots more symbology involved in music, and on a funny note it involves a type of music battle between the two of them, now which pops up over and over again throughout music and Hollywood films. So the amount of detail within J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter is unbelievable. So in the Apocalypse of Zerubbabel, it mentions that there are, once again, similes. So Ben David is liking to having a relationship to a king called Hezekiah, and his wife is, forgive me for mispronouncing the name, but it's Hepzibah or something like that. Hepzibah appears as a character in Harry Potter. Harry Potter's gender equivalent, like with Loki, it's done throughout plays in Hollywood and everything, a female equivalent is Moaning Myrtle. Myrtle is a reference to the myrtle tree in Isaiah. I think it's Isaiah. It's in Isaiah. I think it's like 49 or 50. And I'll put the references in the link, in the description. And it's remarkable because how have people missed that? I don't understand it. It mentions that this is the king of Israel in the future, and it'll be a myrtle tree. Now, the myrtle tree is also an ironwood tree, which is specifically mentioned as where Maitreya, the seventh Buddha, will find enlightenment from. And the ironwood is mentioned in a series called The Hollow on Netflix, which mentions a dream within a dream, which is the Matrix basically. And I've written about Harry Potter and how many references there are. So going on from there, you can see that there is a link. There's many other links. In Percy and the Lightning Bolt, you have a satyr who is Percy's friend, who's basically Pan. You've got many other references. There's even a statue of Pan in that film, I think, or the second film, where there's a fight between Medusa. Harry Potter is a wizard, which is just a metaphor for God, one of the angels, fallen angels. And Harry Potter is just encoded what's happening right now and what will come in the future. And then there is a link between Hermes, or Pan, I'll just say Pan from now on, Pan and Apollo, who would be Voldemort, because the genealogy of these gods is quite different sometimes depending on which references you look at. So in some instances, Apollo is Hermes' dad, father. So in Voldemort you have obviously the Antichrist, and he is connected through parcel tongue to Harry Potter. In the very same chapter by Isaiah, of a mention of the myrtle tree, which is symbolic of Shavuot, and it's symbolic of the making of this special ornament which the Jews used, and it's symbolic of rebuilding the third temple basically. And it mentions the gate of Ephraim. So there's much more to that for another video. But the myrtle tree is also, later down you have a cockatrice, and a cockatrice is a hen that lays an egg that has a snake, and that snake is a basilisk snake. The chances of J.K. Rowling choosing a basilisk snake is monumental with all the other coincidences. Like I said, one could look at Percy Jackson and see all the different similarities in that scenario. But what I really want to deal with in this video is something that is very, very significant, which is in Hollywood, which I've said is very important to these narratives of the old gods, sons of God, is that these actors play similar or parallel roles, characters, in just about their entire career, if not their entire career. And this involves hundreds and hundreds of actors, and it also works with the UK film industry to a certain degree. And I haven't made a database for all these actors, but one can simply look at Harry Potter, and Daniel Radcliffe plays Harry Potter, who is a type of Messiah, Ben David, and what you can see is that he also played a character in Horns, who is clearly Pan, and we get the horns of the devil from Pan. That's how we get the makeup of him being red with horns and a goat's legs. In reality, he's not the devil. He's just a mischievous god who who did very, very bad things, as mentioned in the prodigal son's narrative. And he's very, very significant to this group of people, the occult. So he plays that character, and then there are other characters within Harry Potter, such as David Tennant, who, as you may be aware of, was the 10th Doctor in Doctor Who. David Tennant also plays Crowley, reference to Aleister Crowley in, I get this right, is it Good Omens? I think it's Bad Omens, the Netflix series and the series of books. Then one could just look at all the other characters, and specifically you could see, I'm not sure how old the story of Beauty and the Beast is, but Emma Watson plays Belle in Beauty and the Beast, and she falls in love with a beast with horns, similar. And then one could look around the other characters who are famous. So one has Dumbledore, who is, forgive me, Michael Gambon, and he plays other characters. He's even in a series, he's even in an episode of Doctor Who, playing a type of man that's gone wrong, just like in A Christmas Carol. Dumbledore, so it's a similar role. Sometimes it's similar to the narrative of the Bible, specifically the Messiah. One could then look at Thor Ragnarok, and we have Jeff Goldblum, who plays the Master, very similar to Doctor Who's Master, and he even has a scepter, and the scepter is very, very important to Messiah Ben David, because this scepter rod will be given to him, or his mother, I think, in the future battle with Gog and Magog, and that will be Aaron's staff, Moses' staff. She will have it from heaven. It's very significant. Hezekiah as well, going back to the Apocalypse of Zebra, which you can find online very easily on Google, is that the number 42 pops up, which is his age, and I think that's mentioned in Doctor Who. There's an episode called 42 or 43. There's many other characters within Star Wars that pop up time and time again. So with Mark Hamill, he plays, I think it's the Joker in Batman and the Phantasm, which I've got as DVD, which is a cartoon. Then Mark Hamill obviously plays Luke Skywalker, and these messiahs, they tend to die and come back, or never die at all. So that there's a link there in the Matrix and other things. You see it in C.S. Lewis's The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. People think that I shouldn't say people, scholars, lay people think that Aslan is Jesus, but I believe it is Ben David, because he comes back. Then one could look at any number of films. Jeff Goldblum is in a number of different other films connected with it. So very often these The Lion King. The Lion King is very much about Ben David, and because Hermes would be the old side of this character, and then he has come back as a human. This is mentioned within the stories of Loki. and you get this narrative across the bulk of the pyramid because these writers are only allowed to write this narrative. That's why they're all linking up, because they are revealing this now. And because he has to come this very, very soon, if not this year, very, very soon, the coming years. Nobody really knows, but there's these links. So Luke Skywalker's father the voice is James Earl Jones, and he's the father of Simba the Lion King in The Lion King. There's a connection on a comedy note, to Rowan Atkinson, and he's kind of like a little comedy part to The Lion King, plays a bird, but he's also played a character called Johnny English, who's a type of James Bond. There's even a film, I think it might be the first film, where he becomes the king. He's accidentally crowned as the king, and John Malkovich plays this tyrant, so he would be the type of Antichrist. Sometimes it's so blatant like that, sometimes it's quite obscure. But try to look at the Apocalypse as overall, because it's so specific about the timeline. It's so specific, it uses symbology which is very, very important. And like I say, it works within the UK and the film industry as well. It also works in books. But have a look at these characters that keep popping up. You'll find it in Alien film series, and you'll find it in many, many other films. Hundreds, in fact. Matrix, Thor, Marvel Universe. Keep looking at them.